All right, top of the morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Club Fearless, the place where you can create coaching clients, develop your coaching skills, and move through your fears easily without any screaming into pillows or banging any hammers or yelling at the sky. Not allowed. All right. Let's begin. So take a moment, everyone, make sure that your phone is switched off. And if your feet are stuck up in the air, just bring them all the way down to the floor. Just plant your feet on the floor. It's very helpful just to ground yourself, which is one of the things that Catherine's going to be talking about today. So take a moment and just feel your butt in the chair and feel your feet on the ground. Just give yourself a minute to just allow any thinking that you have about what's going to happen today or, you know, la-di-la-di-la-la. Just allow that thinking just to settle. You don't have to do anything. Just allow yourself to settle. It will settle. When you stop shaking the snow globe, it settles. Just take a moment to acknowledge yourself for showing up for yourself today. And if you want to set any kind of an intention for today, you know, how would you like to show up today? Yourself? Someone else? How would you like to show up today? Would you like to maybe ask a question and lean up against that comfort zone a little bit? So when you're ready, you can allow your eyes to open. Welcome, everyone. That's something you can do for your clients, you know, just to help them settle a little before a session. It's very helpful. Okay, so the topic or the theme for this month is creating paid coaching clients. That's the theme. However, we're going to go anywhere that's going to be helpful for you today. Now, the purpose of Club Fearless is really to help you to create more paid coaching clients. It's to help you develop your coaching skills. And it's to help you to move through fear. Actually, to understand and see for yourself that there is no such thing as fear. You got a lot of fearful thinking. There's no such thing as fear because you can't put it in your pocket. You can't put it in a wheelbarrow. As Michael Neal says, Catherine. So I sort of give you a snapshot of what Club Fearless is about, because I know there's quite a few new people here today, but we have three trainers or facilitators or teachers every month, myself, Catherine, and Jasmine. And the first Thursday of each month at 10 a.m. is coaching with Dermot, one-on-one business building coaching with Dermot. Second Thursday is with Jasmine at 6 p.m. and she'll be coaching you on whatever is going to be helpful for you to keep moving towards creating paid coaching clients. Third class of the month, and this has to be confirmed, but 10 a.m. with Catherine, and she's going to help you she's going to share her wisdom, her many, many years of wisdom, and also to help you move through anything that would be helpful in terms of building your business. And then the fourth week of the month is a special class for developing your coaching skills. So developing how you listen, how you ask questions. We're going to listen to coaching sessions every month together, and then we're going to talk about them. So we got a rich environment here every week for you in Club Fearless. So I'm very excited and very honored that Catherine is going to be a part of this. So feel free to ask your questions today. The table is open. Catherine's going to talk about grounding, but she's going to open it up to anything that you want to talk about that would be helpful. Catherine has been my mentor, my teacher, my coach for quite a while. She's also my partner's coach. And she's one of those people that I don't know how it happened. Luck of the Irish, maybe. that we became friends. I had invited Catherine to my radio show and we became friends, and we've been friends ever since. Which again, look at the Irish. And Catherine being Irish too, coming from a small family of, what is it, 10, Catherine, or 11? 10, yeah.
10,
Mine's
yeah.
only 7, Catherine's 10. Small Catholic families. And Catherine has been teaching, training, facilitating all over the world for many, 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 many years, more than she wants to tell you. And she's one of those rare individuals that is just being herself. It's one of the things that I loved about Catherine when I first saw her on YouTube many years ago. I thought, wow, this lady's just being herself, you know? And I could learn a lot from that. Now, Catherine, you know, Club Fearless, speaking of which, Catherine has, she worked for the Pransky Group for many years as a trainer and a facilitator, teacher. She also created a coaching program in San Quentin Prison. Also worked with the juvenile system in Santa Clara County, and also worked with the Santa Clara hospital system. So she's done a lot, and which is amazing to me. So I'm going to open up in a few minutes to Catherine, but just a few little logistics before we start, and we can go anywhere today. So write this down in your books. The next, I'm going to have an experienced Club Fearless class. That's a class that you can come to. There's no sign up. You just come and experience what Club Fearless is if you'd like a second class. And that's on March 7th at 10 a.m. And the topic of that class is going to be how to astonish prospective clients so that they hire you. How to astonish your clients. So that's on March 7th at 10 a.m. This class today will be recorded, of course. And if you would like a recording of the class, which I highly recommend you listen to what Catherine has to say at least 3 times, because she's going to be sharing a perspective that may be very different from what you've heard before. So I would highly encourage you to get the recording. How do I do that? Put your email in the chat and I will add it to the recording list. And I'll send it out later today. You'll get the audio and the video version of this recording. What else? Okay, I'm going to put in the chat. If you want to find out more about Club Fearless, if you want the information, but the best way to get an experience is to come to a class. But if you want to get any more information on Club Fearless, you can go to that link. I put it in the chat, and you can sign up and you get 4 classes free before anything gets charged. So it's a really wonderful way to come and get an experience of Club Fearless for 4 classes. And then that will help you decide whether this is where you want to, you know, where you'd like to come every week. Just going through, making sure I've hit all the T's. Okay, so that's about it. So Catherine's going to talk about grounding today. The theme for the month is creating paid coaching clients, and you can ask her anything about anything. She's an open book with a lot of wisdom. Catherine, anything else? I think should I turn it over?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick it off.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Catherine Casey.
I love listening to you, Dermot. You're fun to listen to. Talk about being yourself. You're the ultimate, more than me being yourself. I have to say that. Anyway, well, Dermot asked me to talk about grounding, and it's funny. I don't like that word. I call it the G word, mostly because it's a subtle thing about, well, I have to be a certain way, like I have to be more grounded, or am I grounded enough, or, you know, those kinds of things. So I'm going to talk about this idea of grounding maybe in a different context. To me, all that means is, where am I coming from when I'm either looking at developing my career, or whether I'm with a client in front of me, or whether I'm networking, to create my business. It's more about, well, where am I coming from in terms of, am I being of service, or am I wanting to be ambitious, or am I really attached to hitting a certain goal, and I'm going to make money, and I'm going to get this and get that, versus, wow, this is something that I'm interested in doing and interested in being of service to folks, because coaching implies helping people be more successful. But again, if I become really attached to that, in a sense that I have a lot on it, do you know what I mean? How many of you feel pressure about wanting to be successful? Raise your hand. I mean, we all do, don't we? We all want to strive and do better and achieve our goals. But see, that can get in our way. That's what can get us kind of into trouble. And so when I hear the word fear, to me, it's more about feeling like, well, if I get to a certain place, I'm going to be okay. If I'm going to make a certain amount of money, I'm going to be okay. Versus, I'm okay no matter what. See, this is something that I didn't realize and know about. I was getting a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I didn't know that I've always been okay. I thought the more I did out here to achieve and accomplish, and people would value me and admire me, or even just want to be with me, then that would help me feel good. Like that would be good. And if that wasn't happening, then I would start to feel insecure, and then get more busy about, well, what can I do to make that happen even more? And I was brilliant. You could put me anywhere and I could get to the top pretty quickly. And looking back, I loved what I did, no matter what I was doing in terms of the kind of, quote, job I was in. But it took a toll on me. And I, again, I loved working with people, but when I'd hit the weekend, I was like peopled out. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I was exhausted. I was mentally drained. But on the other hand, I just loved the work. So that was always kind of a quandary for me. Like, what? I wish I didn't have that. And of course, I saw it as the kind of work I was doing. I worked in Silicon Valley back when the PC wave was coming up. I was a buyer. I was outside sales, competitive, rah, rah, rah. I loved it, but again, it was exhausting. Then I shifted into getting my master's degree in clinical psychology and doing my internships and having, clients and all of that good stuff. And again, was really loving it, but it was exhausting. And I didn't realize that I was so attached to getting from, it's kind of like, well, this is my day job, but I'm trying to get to what I really want to do. So there was always this kind of like never being satisfied with where I was at, never being at ease with where I was at. Now, how many of you have experienced this, what I'm talking about? How many of you can relate to what I'm saying? Yeah, I think this is a human thing for all of us. I mean, you can even see it in kids. I have 2 grandkids, and I can see already where it starts. Well, I'm going to be okay if I have my favorite blankie. My little granddaughter, she has her favorite blankie. And every now and then, if she loses sight of it, she gets really like, where's my blankie? Where's my blankie? You could see already where it starts. And there's nothing wrong with having your little security blankie, but in that moment, she really doesn't feel okay unless she has that. So that's kind of a metaphor for all of us. And so looking back, and I loved how Dermot said, yeah, I've done a lot of things. I really have. I look back on what I've done in my life, and I can't believe I have done it. I get tired when people start talking about it, like, did I do all that? But there was a fork in the road where, as I started to understand what I'm talking about now, that it was more like I'm doing this as a calling of wanting to be of service from pure enjoyment, being satisfied with what I was doing. As I shifted into that mode, actually, not only was I not getting drained, I was getting energized. And on top of being energized and really enthused about what I was doing, people were drawn to me. People, no matter if I was working with inmates in San Quentin or corporate people in the corporate environment, because whatever I was doing, I was totally enjoying it and inspired by it. People were drawn to me. And I'm going to tell you, I do not have a website. I'm not on Facebook. All I have is an email. That's it. I have an email and I text. Okay, that's it. Because as I'm around people doing webinars or whatever, I end up getting more requests, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of noticing after the fact how things have happened for me instead of striving towards it. And I know this sounds like a paradox because yes, we want to do these things, but yet if we get attached to it, that's going to get in our way. So it's a paradox. But here's the thing. There's another dimension within us that we tend to either we don't know it's there, or we think we're just lucky, or we don't respect that it's there. And that's what, and Dermot referenced this, that this limitless potential wisdom that resides in every human being. We all have this. And we tend not to recognize the fact of that. So we rely so much on our head about getting to where we want to go and not realizing that there's this other part of all of us that's really running the show. And we don't have to work as hard as we do. And what I would invite you to do is reflect on your life and look back at your life and well, have I gone through something? Either I was successful at something and it worked out, or I went through a difficult time and I came through it okay. Well, what was that? What was that? And how was it that I do land on my feet time and time again? There are words called resiliency, wisdom, limitless potential, spirit. There's so many words to describe this intangible, limitless thing that we have within ourselves. And it is a state of mind. It comes to us through our mind. So our minds, when they're free, light, and open, everything's possible. When our minds are weighted down, when there's a lot in our mind about what we're doing, that weighs us down, and that can take a toll, or that can hold us up. So fear is just one word to describe just having a lot on our mind about what's in front of you. And so that's my take on grounding. Not making yourself light, just appreciating that lightness is innate within me. And that sometimes I innocently get overthinking about how I'm doing, what I should be doing, where I should be going. The more you just start to see that, I'm not telling you you should manage it. Just appreciate, oh, that's what's going on. It's not what the goal is, or it's not what the financial thing is, the money thing. It's the meaning I'm making about, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? That's what's getting in my way. And we innocently are in that, we don't realize it. So I became fearless. I'll tell you, this is where great example, when I finally saw what I'm telling you now. I had an opportunity to present to a high-level person in Santa Clara County to work with her entire department. And it was a big deal that she even wanted to interview me. And I was so excited. So I got, all my ducks in a row about presenting, how my approach and how I go about things. I had a colleague with me. So we had our game plan. So we meet with her, and as we're talking to her, she said, well, I really want my folks to deal with their stress. And I'm thinking, oh, what we do is exactly perfect for stress. And we try to tell, well, this is how we go about it. This is what we want people to understand, how the mind works, et cetera. She said, well, I'm thinking maybe we could get some stretchy bands and we could get some mood rings. And we're like, no. Actually, you really don't you want to look at what's before. So we kept talking about our approach. Well, guess who she hired? The stretchy band mood ring person. and this was a year's work of work. This was, we left a lot of money on the table on that one. So I called my mentor, George Pransky, and we called him. We said, George, we totally blew it. We blew it. We didn't get the gig. We were so upset. And he said, all right, just slow down. Now tell me what happened. So we described what we did. And he starts laughing. I said, well, George, I'm so glad you find this entertaining, but we're devastated that we blew this opportunity. And he said to me, I'll never forget this. This was a real turning point. He said, you know what I love about you, Kathy? You get in over your head. He said, the fact that you got in over your head and you went for something, yeah, it didn't work out. But you think I was born knowing how to do this? Because George is brilliant at creating business, let me tell you. He said, you think I was born knowing how to do this? You know how many times I've blown it? I said, really, George? And I looked at him, I said, you mean it's okay to blow it? And he goes, well, welcome to the club. And that's when I realized he doesn't make meaning about whether he succeeds or not in getting business. When he doesn't get it, he'll step back and go, okay, what did I miss here? Well, as soon as he told us what we missed, he was into the third sentence we said, oh, you're right. We didn't listen to her. We were trying to impose our game plan on her. We didn't want to hear her. We didn't even get care. Well, why do you think mood rings would be helpful? I mean, we didn't even care to ask her. And we saw it instantly how we blew it. And we were surprised because we knew that. We knew to do that with folks. So to make a long story short, after I had that experience, I became fearless. And many times I do jump into things and it can work out. And other times it doesn't work out. And I don't feel bad about it. I just kind of step back and go, okay, either that wasn't something that I was really meant to do, or I really didn't have my heart in it. And believe me, I've done a few projects like that where my heart wasn't in it. And believe me, the results showed that. But that to me is perfect, because the more I do those things and I trust that I'm going to be okay, and I trust that I'm going to figure it out and do the next thing will work out, the more I trust within myself, after a while, it just works out. So another example, again, I was watching a TV show late at night. Dermot and I were talking about watching TV at night. It was the Charlie Rose program back when he was brilliant. He used to interview very successful, famous people, business people, artists, actors, authors, the top of, top names. And so I loved his show because one time he had like 3 successful corporate guys. They were CEOs of these huge companies. And he asked them, he said, so when you go to hire somebody, what are you looking for? Like, how would you pick somebody to work for your company? And they all said in different ways, but they all said, actually, we want to hear about what they've achieved, but we also want to hear, what did they do when they failed? We want to find out from them. Well, tell us about times when something didn't work out. And the thing they look for is the people who fell flat on their face and it didn't work out, but they didn't make meaning about it. They didn't take it personally. They sort of brushed themselves off and looked around and said, okay, what's next? That's what they're looking for. Not that you'll never fail. It's inevitable. You talk to every successful person and they will tell you, oh, I didn't get here in a straight line, for sure. And that's what, when I heard that, that was another example of people who are truly successful or unassuming, wanting to be of service, are connected to themselves and they're connected to what they're doing. and they don't make meaning about when things don't work out. So to me, that's what grounding is. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that makes sense to you. How many of you would say that makes sense to you right now? Does that sound reasonable? So the only thing you need to start to notice is, am I getting too urgent? Am I getting impatient? Am I putting pressure on myself? You know, you want to start noticing that stuff. See, people used to think, well, I need to have pressure to make things happen. I used to be that way. And it's actually the opposite. It's the opposite. The more I'm just responding as I need to respond, and the more reflective and open and curious I am about wanting to go forward in my career, or when I'm working with a client, the more I'm in that lighter place. That's where you see a lot of solutions, ideas, creativity. That's where all that stuff comes from. So that's what I'd have to say about grounding.
Yeah, I'm chuckling, Catherine, because I remember when I had this big gig that I thought was, well, it was a huge gig in terms of the contract and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to the company and totally blew it, and came back and called Catherine the next day and said, oh, Catherine, I blew it. I totally blew it. I could tell they weren't interested. And she said, well, what did you do? And I said, oh, I told them about the coaching. I gave them graphs about how the impact of coaching. I told them how it will change their business. And she said, Dermot, how much time did you spend finding out about what the company needs?
Yeah.
And of course, it was like,
there it is.
Zero time.
Yeah.
Because I was there to sell. I wasn't there to listen or ask questions or find out what they actually wanted. I had something that I knew was good for them. And I spent the 2-hour presentation trying to ram it down their throats. And
with good intention. And you know what?
Yeah, good intention.
Yeah. Now, here's the other secret. I was called in to the head of the director of nursing at this huge public hospital here in Santa Clara County, Valley Med. A high-level nurse manager committed suicide, and it put everybody into a tailspin. And so she had heard me speak somewhere, and she called me up. She said, I want you to come in. We need to do something. Now, I could have come in with a package on grief and loss. I could have come in with a program on that, but I didn't. I even though, things happened because this woman committed suicide, I had not a clue about what was really needed. So I go in, and as soon as I walk into her office, she says, well, I only have 20 minutes. And my first thought was, well, hey, honey, you called me in here, but I had to clear that out. And I just got really, really present with her and looked at her, and I said, okay, tell me, what is it that you really need? Or what's your take on what's going on? An hour and a half later, she was still talking to me. Cancel my calls, cancel my appointments. It's rare that anybody gets somebody who is just there to hear them out. And even though she's in a top level position, people are always coming at her with their own ideas or what they want, tell her what to do or whatever. I was somebody who had no agenda, no attachment, nothing. I was just there to hear her out. And as she finished, and a few times I tried to come in, to maybe suggest something, and she wasn't ready yet. She talked over me, and I said, okay, she's gonna let her go. And finally at the end, you could tell she was finished. And I said, given everything you've just told me, what do you want for your nurses? She said, I want them to be able to bounce back. This is a tough business, and they just have to have that. And I said, you're speaking to resiliency then? She said, yes, I want my nurses to be more resilient. And I said, great, we can design a program around resiliency. So again, had nothing to do with grief. Listening to her, she saw that her nurses, they couldn't handle the pressure. They just couldn't, and one snapped. She finally just snapped. And this is a big issue in the healthcare world, and it's getting worse today because of what's happened in the last couple of years. So resiliency was a huge thing that was needed in that organization. So we wrote up the program, provided the program, had amazing results, and saved a number of careers because a lot of them were getting ready to quit. So again, many people don't get this willingness from other people to just listen to them and hear them out. So yeah, Dermot, with good intention, you saw it, how beneficial it would be, and it would be. But again, when you approach people, they've got so much going on in their minds, and you're coming in with all the stuff on your mind, it's going to be harder to connect.
Yeah.
But when you're there with the free and clear mind, in the presence of somebody who's in the opposite place, they're going to slowly calm down enough to where you can start to engage in some kind of conversation. And many times people say to me, wow, I always feel good after I talk to you, you know? And when they say, I say, well, do you know why? And they go, well, I don't know why, but I like it. I go, well, let me explain to you why that is. And that's what I could bring to your organization. The fact that you feel better with me during this time, I could bring that into your organization, but also help them understand what's behind that. Boom, I'm in. So yeah, with good intention, that happens.
Yeah. Catherine,
Okay.
how about we, before we jump into, open Q&A with Catherine, you can talk to her about anything. Business building is the theme, grounding is the theme. But you can talk to Catherine, ask her anything you want. So take a moment, everyone. But first, I want you to just reflect for a minute on what Catherine just shared. What did you hear in that? Not what did she say, but what did you hear that was helpful? Take a moment just to jot that down. We'll take a minute in silence. I'll let you know when it's up. Just jot down what was helpful. And when you're ready, put it in the chat box so that we can all learn from your. All right, Cherry says, don't go into a meeting with your own agenda, find out what they need. Yeah, that's really it. We could stop right there, Sherry. Jamie says, don't make meaning out of failure and or things that don't work out. Sometimes things don't work out and no meaning needs to be made. Yeah. Chelsea says, being unattached to the meaning of getting business, not getting business, it's feedback. Yeah. Carolyn says, being truly present with someone, which is really what coaching is all about. Claire, notice when I feel pressure or urgency. Yes, not a good time to offer some coaching to someone when you're in urgent, gotta get them mode. I know that feeling very, very well. Gael says, get our ego out of our way and engage our heart. Philip says, sometimes it's better to step back to breathe rather than taking a deep breath. Just run into that much harder. Yeah, beautiful. All right.
Great. Well, I'm glad I made sense.
All right, let's open it up. Catherine, you have the floor, and coaches, you have the floor. So you can talk to Catherine about the theme, or you can ask her anything that you want. Over to you, coaches. Take a moment to get clear on your question so that you make sure to you have a question, or at least a sense of a question, and then we'll start off. All right, Gail, you'll start us off. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Kathy. I love what you shared with us, and it really resonates with me. That's the place I want to grow my business. I'm a new coach. I started a few months ago. Where I'm struggling is how to manage this intention, and that's really the one I want to show up in the world, is with being of service and going with my authenticity, the energy to sharing my passion. And how do I manage that when I am actually also financially struggling? And there is this pressure of, making money. And that's where I find for me the hardest to maintain, this intention.
This is, I think, common for people who are wanting to become self-employed, meaning they're not going to be in a 9-to-5 position where they have a guaranteed salary. You're getting a check every so often, et cetera. Okay. I look back, there was a point in my life where I had to make a decision. Do I stay in a position where I would have money guaranteed for the rest of my life? It was a governmental position, good benefits, solid money, room, to, improve or get promoted, et cetera, or go off on my own and become self-employed, become a freelance consultant. And it was interesting because I thought, well, if I stick with the sure thing, something inside of me said, that's not, how do I want to say that? Somehow I saw that would be limiting for me. Okay. So I went in the opposite direction. I decided to become freelance. So yeah, there were times when I was making money, I was getting business and things were great. And then there were times when the phone wasn't ringing and business wasn't showing up and I started to panic. And then I started to think, oh, you should have taken that job. Why did you not do that? Here you are, now I'm worried about finances. And I called a dear friend and mentor, Linda Pransky, and I called her up because she and her husband, they had an established practice here in San Francisco and were making tons of money, and they walked away from it to start something brand new. Totally, they walked, and so I trusted her advice because she had been there. She said, all right, here's the deal. She said, when you're doing the work, that whatever work you get, just be into it, thrive on it, enjoy it, put your heart into it, et cetera, et cetera. When you're not working, put your heart into it, enjoy it, thrive on it, because when you start working again, you're going to realize, oh, there was a time when I could have been enjoying myself, being open to new opportunities, looking at possible ideas. But because I was in worry, it narrows my vantage point. So she said, whether you're working or not working, just be connected to it. And I thought, wow, that just blew me away when she said that, because I was expecting her to tell me, well, you need to do this or you should do that. So I really took that in. So, I was working a little bit more and then I stopped. I wasn't working as much. And when I worked, I would work like crazy. And then I'd be thinking, oh man, this is so much work. I would never say no because I had this fear. If I said no, I wouldn't have work again. And then when I wasn't working, I took her advice. I enjoyed not working. I enjoyed the downtime. And inevitably, as soon as I have a little thought, oh, what if I don't work anymore? The call comes in. So, or I might go hang out somewhere and talk with people. But the bottom line is, what is your state of mind? So if you're feeling urgent about money, that's going to hold you up. So what I do is I point myself in the direction I would like to be working more, but right now I'm not going to make a whole lot of meaning about that. I'm just going to see what's in front of me and get reflective, get creative. What are some options here? And for me, it's funny, things will come to me when I'm not looking for them. That's kind of how this works. So one day I was working in the adult criminal justice system, and I saw where the juveniles were. They have a juvenile facility where they call it juvenile hall, where they lock them up. And one day I said, wow, I'd love to work with that facility. That would be great if I could work with that facility. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm telling you, about 6 months later, this politician called me up, knew about the work we have money. Where would you like it to go? I said, I want to take this into the juvenile justice system. She said, write it up and we'll fund you. So yes, point yourself to where you want to go. But don't get urgent about it, or don't feel like, okay, I've got to make money. I've got to make money. Now, you may need to do something else to make money while you're waiting, but you don't want to see that as being less than either. And I know this sounds bizarre, but I've told people, if somebody said you're never going to get to do what you do, it's over, and you're going to get a job at McDonald's. I know I would love working at McDonald's because I love working with people. I would get into it. I just know I would get into it. And who knows what would happen there? Whoa, who is she? We've got to move her up the line here. She needs to be in management. See, that's, you need to connect to that part of yourself and trust it, that you have a lot to bring to the table. But if your mind's all worried, caught up, people aren't going to feel that from you. And I know it's hard. I know I had those moments where I'm like, oh, how am I going to pay my rent? And somehow I'd work it out. I would work it out. I'm single. I'm on my own. I've been since 1995. And I'm still here. So, but yeah, so I'm not saying it's bad to be nervous or worried. I'm just saying appreciate that we're innocently feeling urgent, somehow feeling like maybe that's going to make things move a little bit when it's actually just going to hold you up. So, just kind of be with it, be careful. Now, what's up with this? And here's one more thing I'm going to say. One day I had a group of professional women, very successful women. And I don't know, one day I said, so what are your worst fears? What are you guys worried about? Because one woman had this thing about answering her emails, and she'd have like 300 emails a day. And she felt, I've got to answer each email. And I said, well, what would happen if you didn't answer your email? She said, oh, I'll miss something. I'll make a mistake. They'll fire me. And then I won't have any money. And I'm going to end up homeless, living under the bridge. I mean, she went right there like, and I looked at these other women. I said, how many of you have this fear that you're going to end up homeless, living under the bridge? And they're like, and I said, now, isn't it interesting? It's just looking at all these emails, and you have that kind of urgency. If I don't do these emails, I'm going to end up homeless under the bridge. Now, is that kind of nutty? And I said, looking at who you are and your talent and what you have and where you've been and where you are now, would you ever really end up living under the bridge? I mean, would you ever really? And they kind of go, well, probably not. And I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. One day I went with that for myself. I said, okay, I'm going to end up living under the bridge. The worst of the worst. I'm going to lose everything. I'm now homeless. I'm hanging out with folks under the bridge. And you know what? I'll just start talking to them about what I know about wisdom and the stuff that I talk about. And one day somebody's going to notice all these people are showing up to hear this homeless lady talk about wisdom, and who is she? And we need to know. And next thing you know, they're going to pluck me out and want to use me somewhere else. See, I know that about myself. So you need to know that about yourself, that you're going to land on your feet no matter what. And the more you trust that, that's what gets you through. Even if you don't see it yet, but there's something within me that's going to help me get through anything I'm going through, transitions and difficulties and whatever's going on in your life, whether it's professional, career, or personal, we have that resource inside of us. So hang in there. I hope that was helpful. Yeah.
All right, coaches. Hands up. You can use the hand icon, the reactions on the bottom. Just click on that icon. What would you like to ask Catherine? The floor is open. You can ask her anything. That's what we're here for. All right, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Chelsea.
Hi. You said something in there that I'm curious about, and it was when people are talking to you, they feel better, and then you said if you hire me, I can help your organization
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
that way and explain what's behind that.
Yeah.
The what's behind that, I'm really interested in what that is.
Well, that's what I do. My whole thing is helping people understand how their mind works, like what's behind feeling urgent, what's behind feeling at ease, like what's behind the whole thing. So I'm not here to help people reframe it or think of it differently. I'm here to help people understand the nature of how we can create fear. Like what's up with that? Like where does that come from? So that's a whole thing to know about. And I couldn't do it justice in just 5 minutes. It's the foundation of everything. We call it the 3 principles of mind, thought, and consciousness, which sounds kind of weird, but it's actually just appreciating that we're thinking beings, and we're thinking our way through life. I mean, you're in thought, I'm in thought right now, and we can be in the moment, just connecting, listening to each other, or we could have a million things on our mind all at once. And most of the time, that's how we're operating. We're in life and we've got a million things on our mind all at once. And to the extent that that's going on, well, that's what's going to give you your experience in any given moment. So you could be at ease in the moment, or you could feel urgent, impatient, frustrated, bored. I mean, whatever you want to call that, whatever you're experiencing within yourself, the feeling that you're in can only come from thought, from your mind. It doesn't come from outside of us, which is compelling because we've learned that how we are has to do with our environment or how people around us. Well, I'm feeling pressure because my boss is expecting me to do this, this, and that. Well, yeah, the boss has those things, that's on your plate. That's what you need to do. But your experience of it comes from your thinking about what you have to do, not what the thing is. And that's what I teach people, whether it's the corporate world or people who are coming from living under the bridge, people who are locked up in prison, kids in prison, people who work in healthcare. It's universally the same for all human beings. So that's what I bring to the table. That's what I bring into an organization. So when I brought that when we designed a program on resiliency, well, what is resiliency and where does it go? What happens to it? That we're not being able to bounce back. And so we talk about kind of the mechanics of that, like the nature of that. And that's why a lot of these nurses, when they saw what was behind the whole thing, they thought it was the actual nature of the job, which, believe me, I can't believe they stayed in these positions, these careers as long as they had, given how much intensity they were in their mind about it. But when they saw, oh, it's not the job, it's all the thinking I have about all this stuff. And I didn't take away from the fact that, yeah, they have a lot to deal with. But it was where their minds were so heavy with feeling responsible and feeling pressure, and people's lives are at stake. So they were under this huge weight. And I'll never forget this. We had a break, and I could sense that we had a group of about 30 nurse managers and nurses. And I said, well, if you want to put your head on the desk and take a nap, feel free, And so my colleague and I, we left, we came back. They were all literally out. They all had their heads on the table and they were gone. They were so mentally exhausted. And that to me was an indicator of where people are coming from in the healthcare. They're mentally, physically now because of the hours, but we can get over physical exhaustion quickly. You just need to rest your body. But mental exhaustion interferes with sleep, and it's like you never get on top of it. You always wake up in that deficit. And so we talked about, well, what causes that? It's not the job. It's all the thinking that I have that I'm literally walking around in while I'm doing my job. And I'm telling you, it made a huge difference for them. It made a huge difference for them. So that's what's behind. So, but I want it to be relevant, you know, in the healthcare industry or juvenile hall kids, that it's a trip because their life is, you know, about feeling excited and doing things that are fun and, you know, risky, and they get a thrill from that. And so one day I said, well, you know, why do you do all this stuff? Well, because there's nothing going on. We're bored. And I said, so you're stealing cars and doing all this stuff because you're bored? Yeah, when you steal a car, it's exciting and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, do you guys know what boredom really is? And I had a good rapport with them, so I could get away with this. And they said, well, what do you mean what boredom is? It's just nothing's happening. I go, well, actually, all boredom is your mind's going really fast on the inside, which is making everything look slow on the outside. That's what boredom is. And they said, could you say that again? You know, and it clicked for them because while they were locked up, all they could think about is their friends on the outside having fun, or their girlfriends or whatever. And this one kid goes, you know what, Kathy? I decided to get off my bunk, because he used to just lay in his bunk. He wouldn't participate in activities or anything. He said, I got involved in a lot of stuff, and you know, time flies by. I see now, you're right. If my mind's just dwelling on all this stuff, time goes slower. I'm so bored. It's horrible being locked up. But since I got what you said, time's going by fast. And he got it. He got the connection. So yeah, this is relevant regardless of the situation. So if you're coaching a client and they're showing up and you can see it, their mind's got all this stuff going on, and you help them understand that alone can make a world of difference. So that's what I mean by that. In a short, it's something that you learn intuitively. You know this already. What I'm saying is not new, but we just lose sight of it. You know, we just lose sight of it. So great. Thanks for asking. Somebody has their hand up. Who is that?
All right, who's next? Let me see if I can get on the gallery here. All right, who's next? Don't be shy. We won't bite. Promise.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. Is this making sense, what I've been talking about? Okay, because I'm saying something pretty radical most of the time. So, which I'm saying something that's kind of the opposite. It went against all of my training. I had a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I raised my hand when I first heard this. I said, now, it sounds like 4 years of education and $50,000 later is going out the window. And they go, oh, yeah, that's true. And these guys were PhDs, you know, clinical psychology. I said, just so I'm clear on that, because it is the opposite of everything I had learned. So just hang in there with me. So
all right, Claire.
Yeah, Claire has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion, like as a business owner, business builder, and having a period where there's just not motivation, low motivation.
Yeah. Believe me, I have those times. I have times where even when I have a project and I'm making money, and I'll wake, I'm like, oh man, I'm not feeling inspired. I'm not, feeling that enthusiasm, inspiration, whatever you want to call that. Okay. All I need to see about that is I just woke up and a wall of thought just showed up. It's like here in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, you could have a bright sunny day, and out of the blue, this fog just comes rolling in. It's amazing. 1 minute it's beautiful blue sky, and then next minute gray. It's like, whoa. And it wouldn't make sense to look around and go, okay, I need to get rid of all this fog. So I'm going to start waving my arms around to get rid of this. No, this is the nature of how weather works in San Francisco. There are times when it's clear and sunny, and other times this fog bank comes in. But what I know about fog and what I know about my state of mind or my mood is left on its own, it will clear itself out. Are you writing notes while I'm talking to you? Okay, stop writing notes. Stop writing notes. Try to just get a sense of what I'm saying, because as soon as you start writing notes, you're in your head, and I'm trying to give you a sense of something. So you're going to remember this. You're going to know what I'm talking about. So I want you to just experience what I'm saying. So we know about what there are days where it's cloudy. Now you wouldn't say, well, the sun is gone forever. You wouldn't say that, would you? But when we get into a low feeling and we start having thoughts about, oh, what's the point? Or nothing's going to happen, or things, when we start believing our thoughts, when we're in a low state of mind, that's when we get into trouble, as opposed to seeing it as, oh, a weather system just showed up. Okay, that's all it is. Do you see the difference? That's all it is. You know, my energy's down. Things don't look so exciting. Things don't look, I don't feel this energy or connection to what I want to do. Well, that's just the fog just rolled in. A bank of thought came through. And the thing about fog is it dissipates. It burns off. Here on the West Coast, when the clouds come in on the beach, you go to the beach and people go, oh, the sun's not, well, we know it'll burn off. By 12 or 1 o'clock, it'll burn. The sun heats it up enough where it starts to dissipate. Well, your mind works the same way, but you have to leave it alone. You don't want to start engaging in your head about your life or your career, or I don't look at anything, because I know it's not going to look hopeful. It's not going to look inspiring. So I just allow myself to be in that space, but I don't make a big deal about it. I take care of myself, whatever that is for you, you do what helps you out in the moment. Sometimes I think, okay, I'm just going to watch a couple of movies, or I'm just going to read a book, or I'm going to just do so, or I'm going to take a walk, whatever. There's no one way, but the most important thing is just appreciate, okay, this fog has come in, but thank goodness fog comes in and it goes. It comes in and it goes. My mind is like a weather system, and the front just moved in, and just trusting that underneath that your well-being is still there, and not losing sight of that, because I think we tend to get freaked out if we don't have the energy. I used to override it. Okay, I'm going to just gear up even more. Well, after years of doing that, you talk about mentally drained. I mean, I was profoundly exhausted, because it takes energy to gear up energy. So we're actually depleting ourselves more without realizing it. So just be gentle with yourself, but also appreciate this is the nature of being a human being, that I'm not always going to be this rah-rah upbeat person. And again, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So that's what I would say. And when we write notes, when you're listening to me, I want you guys to get a hit off what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to hear the exact words. I loved what you fed back, what you said back to me about what you heard. It's something, this already. We know this already. I'm just bringing it to the forefront. So you don't need to take notes when you listen to me. You're off the hook. Anyway, thank you. I love your smile.
All right. How about let's take a few minutes, everyone, and just share verbally, because we can all learn from each other and get a hit off each other. Just share. Just take yourself up, put your hand up, and just take a minute and share. What are you hearing through all of this? What are you getting a sense of as the class progresses, or as Catherine's sharing and doing some coaching? What are you hearing? Anyone can just take yourself off mute, and we'll give you a minute, and just let's hear what's going on out there. Jamie, why don't you share? Because I know we've talked about this in the past for you. So what are you hearing
I'm
for
I'm
yourself?
hearing, first off, hi Catherine, you're
Hi.
amazing. I'm really inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm really sensing and hearing life is really beautiful,
Mhm,
and we have the opportunity to really enjoy it and
mhm.
not get in our own way.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just there's stuff that always comes up in life, and that's normal. And I'm just inspired right now that I can do anything I put my mind to, and stuff's gonna come up, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. It's funny. We were designed to really be in a light feeling. We were designed to be this way, but we innocently were taught or learned we had to get serious about life. We needed to, you know, think a lot. We needed to work hard, and we do need to know stuff to be successful and get around. You know, we need to go through school and we need to learn things. But unfortunately, you know, learning should be a creative process. But over time, there's more pressure and urgency, and we compare ourselves and we innocently lose sight of, hey, I'm here to enjoy my life no matter what I'm doing. And yeah, things get thrown at us, but I have the capacity to figure out how to deal with that. So I love what you just said. That it's so simple, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
really, really simple, but we just innocently forget about it. We lose sight of that. And believe me, I was this very I was a very intense person. And I was good. I was good at what I did, but it was hard. It was hard. People, you know, they loved me, but it's kind of like, oh, here comes Kathy, you know, because I was this intense ball of energy. And over time, as I started to understand what I'm talking about now, I started to lighten up, and people noticed that in me, like, what's going on with Kathy? And I was still doing a lot, but it was from a whole different place. So yeah, and it's good to know this when you're young.
Mhm.
I started learning this when I was 45 years old. So for the first 45 years, I mean, it didn't mean I didn't have fun, but I worked really, really hard, and I didn't need to with this.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Who else would like to share? Forgive the marching, the marching band outside my house.
You have one. I can't hear it. I only get leaf blowers. Although somebody must be learning how to play the flute across from where I live every day in the afternoon, and they're good, thank goodness. For about an hour, somebody plays the flute and it's lovely. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, these kids it's more noise than anything else, but bless them. I get a kick out of it.
That is cute. That is cute.
All right, who else would like to share? Then we'll go into a little more coaching.
I'll share something.
Yeah, hey, Carolyn.
And then after that, Stefan would like to. Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. What I'm hearing a lot of is really trusting oneself in the process and really listening to intuition. And you're talking about this sort of common sense thing, like there is something underlying that's always there. And if you can learn to trust that and not listen to the noise, then that's really helpful.
Yeah. And how many of us have had this intuitively? We knew something, but we overrode it. We didn't go with it, and later we go, oh, I knew not to do that, or I should have done that. How many of you have done that where you I'm telling you, I still do it every now and then. I'll think, oh, I'm going to go to the store, and I know this is a bad time because of traffic, but I don't care, I'm going to go anyway. And I'm sitting in traffic, I'm thinking, Kathy, you knew not to do this. I mean, your common sense told you this is not a good time. Schools are letting out. So I'm sitting there getting irritated And I think, Kathy, you knew not to come this time of day. So it can be on little things that we override our own common sense and we don't listen to it. So I tend to now trust it more than I ever did before. I mean, I still don't go with it as much as I could, but yeah, I think we shortchange ourselves when we don't listen to that inner voice or that little voice or whatever you want to call that. So yeah, we tend to override it and go with what our head is versus something that we know would be the best direction. And I went into a marriage that way. I was married for 18 years. And as I went through my divorce, I looked back, I said, you knew. I remembered the day where I said, you know what? This is probably not the guy you want to marry. But it came in and it went out. And then I could look back and say, you knew back at the beginning. And that was a big life. Not listening to my intuition then was a big deal. So we can have little ones or big life ones that we don't listen to. And now I value that other part of me more and more. So you're right. Thank you.
All right, Stefan.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presence, I would say.
Hi.
Hi. And yeah, what I wanted to share is just one use case that I have with one person I've met. He's an entrepreneur, and we had a talk. And he said, "Oh, Stefan, I think you could help my community to grow a team and blah blah blah." So I designed this very huge email. Dermot, you know how it can be, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff on my head. And I sent that to him and nothing back, right? And when you were talking, I had this voice of, Stefan, you need to be really present for this person because he told you he was not present for his wife, he was not present for his team. So why don't you shoot him right now an email saying, hey, John, I've been present listening to you. Can I ask you one question? Send that email right away a few minutes ago, and we will see. And what clicked in the moment was, Stefan, if you were to connect to your intuition, you know, and to be in the flow and to listen to the connection you had with this person, would it be simpler for you, you know, to create the connection and to help the team and the company?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to share that.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. And you know, it's compelling when people ask us to give them something. They hear you, oh yeah, great, right? And this happens a lot. You write something up and you put a price tag on it and you ship it out. And first of all, they're in such overwhelm anyway that they can't even take that in, as opposed to working with them first. You know, tell me more about how do you see your organization? What is it that you love about what you do? What is the downside? How are, you know, you really want to get a feel and really hear their take on it. And eventually something will occur about, you know, that's what I'd like our team to know, or that, like what I did with the public hospital. So yeah, it's more about you being open to him and listening to him and getting that connection. So yeah, that's it. That's it.
So much.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Who else? There's no more shares. We'll go back to doing
or questions. Yeah, whatever. It could be anything. Yeah.
Or we could just
I can go. I got a sharing, featuring, or / question maybe. So first of all, hi Catherine, nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
For me, what I'm noticing is there is a bit of friction here, and it's fun because there's this old programming that says, well, that's just too easy. That's just too easy. So how do we do this? So how do we get a guarantee out of this? So how can we make this? How can we get the guarantee? I'll do what you say. But I want the guarantee. And so then there's this voice that says, well, that's not the point here. So I keep coming up with questions for you, and then I keep answering them myself. But there's still this lingering question: what could be a small step like to train this a little bit, to make it like a fun daily thing, to challenge my thinking.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that, because I'm not here to convince you of anything. And seriously, I'm not here to convince you. This is something that I want people to discover for themselves, meaning I'm pointing you into a direction of, hey, here's the deal. Here's the mechanism about what creates pressure, or what creates inspiration, or what creates creativity, or whatever. And then I'm looking to you because you have your own limitless wisdom to know what to do and how to proceed. And you're right. It does seem it's too easy. See, we're so conditioned that things should be hard and complicated that when somebody says, actually, it's the opposite of that. And I'm telling you, I worked with engineers who worked in a very complex environment. I mean, they were designing systems, and they were physicists and engineers and software engineers. I mean, that they were sitting in front of me, and I looked at these guys. I said, you guys have the capacity to get us on Mars. I mean, your intellectual capacity right now is beyond belief. And I acknowledge that with them. But I'm going to try to bypass that part of you. And I want to point you to something that is the opposite of this complicated and intense, whatever you guys are doing. And they kind of looked at me, and I said, yeah, because what I'm going to point you to is what's allowing you to do all that stuff. And it actually might help you not get so caught up in it. So yeah, these guys were used to effort and struggle and, failure, and it worked. I mean, they were really in that mode. And when I started talking about this to them in a way they could hear it, they said, well, we know what that is. And I said, well, what do you mean? Well, we get all really, really need to figure something out that was really important. People's lives were at stake. And we would work on the problem, and we just couldn't get anywhere. And many times we would just kind of give up on it and go home at 2:00 in the morning. And driving home, I start to get ideas. And many of them, they go back and they see where the issue is. So they knew what this was, that when they overdo things in their head and it got harder and harder and more complicated, see, that's the sign that you're getting bogged down. So it's not to say you're not going to deal with difficult things, but if your mind is bogged down, you're not going to see what the answer is. You're not going to see the solution. So the effort is in our mind. So if we're in too much effort, it works against us. That's all I'm saying. So the simplicity is, the more clear your mind is, the more vantage point you will have for whatever you want to do, whether it's your career. So all you need to do in your day is just notice and not get hyper vigilant about it, but every now and then notice, oh, do I have a lot on this? Or am I feeling, your feeling state will help you kind of understand how you're doing. That's the only way you're going to know. So if you're feeling at ease, in the moment, you're fine. If you're starting to feel anxious or pressure or, whatever you want to call that, that's just telling you, oh, you have more in your mind than you realize. And it's not about getting out of that. It's just appreciating it. Just, oh, I see what that is. Okay. Not managing it, but just appreciating. There are times when we get really intense, or we have a lot of attachment, or we have a lot on a situation or person, and other times we don't. And that's just life. We're in, we're out. We're in, we're out. So your feeling state is how you're going to know what's up. So these engineers and physicists, they started to realize what we were talking about. And then they told us when they go home, the big complaint is, well, we know you're home, but you're not with us. Like the kids, they know. They know. Like this one engineer, he said, yeah, my daughter, she was 6 years old, and I'd walk in the door and she'd want to tell me all these things. And I'm like, yeah, honey, yeah. And finally, one day the daughter says, Daddy, come down here. So he comes down, he looks at her, she goes, Daddy, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. She was telling him to get present with her. He said, I never got what she was doing. Now I understand. It's not the amount of time, but if she feels his presence, then that's all she needed, you know? And they got that. They got that. So it is so simple. It is so simple. So that's it. And so, yes, you're going to be working on stuff, you know, and planning and all that. But if your mind is free and clear, things will fall into place, or you'll see opportunities. If your mind is like urgent and, you know, you've got a lot on it, if you feel effort, you want to see that, because effort is not what's going to help you. That's what I would say to that.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and play with it. I mean, just, and I don't mean every day, but every now and then check and go, oh, how am I? Because there are times I'm just at the grocery store and I'll be standing in line and I see the person who's writing a check. I'm like, who writes checks? You know, who writes checks? And she, you know, and I go into it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the wrong line. And then I have to laugh at myself, like, you know, Kathy, it's not the end of the world. She's writing a check. Yes, it's going to take longer. I mean, but I see myself gearing up, right? And I kind of laugh at myself, you know. I laugh at myself because, you know, why would I put myself through that just because somebody else is writing a check? And there may be days where I won't see it and I'll be frustrated and I'll get out to my car thinking, oh, that woman, I can't believe. I may stay with it for the rest of the day, but eventually I'll see it. I'll say, man, Kathy, you need to get over yourself. For the woman writing the check. Anyway, that's what I'd have to say about that. Good to see you again.
All right, we've still got a few minutes. So
Yeah.
Who else?
That was so funny. Somebody writing a check in the grocery store line.
Yeah, I remember, Catherine, when I started to see how much thinking I had on stuff, you know. I was at the dentist and I just had a fear of the dentist you wouldn't believe. And, you know, a lot of experience to back up that fear.
Yeah. Same here.
A lot of experience.
I hear you.
Just in Ireland growing up dirt
Yeah.
poor.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was Boston.
They were butchers. They weren't dentists.
Yeah. For me, it was Boston.
And I remember about 5 years ago going to the dentist and I was just, now it's kind of a joke because my partner is a pediatric.
I know, which is funny. She's a dentist.
But I go to the dentist and he's the nicest guy in the world. And I'm just like, 2 days of gearing up for the dentist. I'm a mess for 2 days. And I didn't sleep the night before and, you know, got to the dentist and I had been working with you for a few years, 2 years, maybe something like that. And I remember sitting down at the chair and thinking, I'm about to have a panic attack. And I've had many in my life. They're not fun at all. And I remember saying, oh, I'm going to have a panic attack. And now there was nothing happening. The guy hadn't even walked into the room. But I had just revved my thinking up so much, which I think that's what a panic attack is. It's like the kettle boils.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
And in that moment, something very, very peculiar happened. I said to myself, oh, you're not having a panic attack, Dermot. You're giving yourself one.
There you go.
And
there you go.
And it's like my brain froze for a moment. I said, hang on, I'm giving myself one? And then I started having this dialogue with myself. What do you mean I'm giving myself one? No, I'm having one. I'm at the dentist. I know what's coming. No, you don't know what's coming, Dermot. You're making shit up. You have no clue what's coming. No, based on all my past experiences, I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen. Like, no, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And And then I still had all the thinking about the dentist, but it was like I was just
Yeah.
looking at it going, who's this guy
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
the story?
yeah.
And I actually, for the first time in my life, I started laughing while I was sitting in the chair
yeah,
because I
yeah.
realized in that
Yeah.
moment how much I had scared
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, exactly.
You know, the dentist wasn't scaring me. I was scaring myself.
yeah.
And it changed. After that, things changed for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Now, I still have a lot of thinking, but going
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
still
yeah,
get rattled
yeah,
and the whole lot.
But you saw something. You saw something.
But I saw it. I saw it enough to where I don't put myself through 2 days of hell.
Right, exactly.
You know, it may be the morning of.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
start. You know,
yeah.
the thinking will start the morning of. So yeah, you know,
Yeah.
that's and that changed my
Yeah,
relationship with fear too.
that's
big
a
way.
life-changing insight.
Yeah, it was.
It's funny, and we innocently do this, and the more we realize it, not to say it's going to go away 100%, but over time it can. I've worked with people who have panic attacks, or people who have addictions, or really serious things, and when they see that connection that you just described, that we innocently are in thought creating this and we don't realize it. And when people realize that, it just changes everything. So that's a beautiful example.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've always liked, Catherine, how you say innocently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because you know, unless I know I'm doing it,
Yeah.
I can't stop it.
Yeah. We're all doing
know?
the best we can, given what we understand about ourselves and about life. And I think that's the other area we hold so much against ourselves. We tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves about, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Am I, how many of you do that? We're never like satisfied or at ease with where I am right now. And to me, I am so grateful for where I am right now. And yeah, believe me, I am not 100% perfect. I'm not 100% patient or forgiving or all these wonderful things, but I am grateful for where I am right now. And I'm open to seeing new and more things about myself, but I'm not going to make meaning about that this is good or bad, or I should be, or I shouldn't be. I think that's where we get ourselves into trouble. Yeah. And that's the innocent piece. That I even said that to guys who are doing, these gang guys who are at San Quentin and other places. They had psychological innocence, meaning they didn't have that connection to why things were happening. That given how they saw life, it made sense to them to do whatever they did. Now, I didn't agree with what they did, but I saw their psychological innocence in what they did. And when they heard that from me, even using the word innocent is something that they had never heard before. So we're all just trying to do the best we can.
All right, I think we have time for one more. Chelsea, is that a new hand, an old hand?
It's a new hand.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I want to play with this a little bit with you.
Yeah.
Okay. When I'm coaching people, I create this safe space, and sometimes I see the patterns, the responsibility, I'm not doing enough, and sometimes that leads to trauma. I want to share this trauma with you, and sometimes it's not.
Are you talking about you or the client? You're talking about the client? Yeah.
Client.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And sometimes it's not. It's more surface level. And I get really nervous in that space.
Okay.
Right? Like, where do I go with this? Because
okay.
I want to keep them here. I don't want to go here.
Yeah.
I also want to acknowledge. So I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah. Okay. This is a great question. And in a short amount of time, basically, I kind of call this listening one, listening two. Okay. So listening one is me. Am I present? Okay. So am I with this person? But there are going to be times, it's inevitable, where I'm going to gear up a little bit, like, oh, what does this mean? Or, oh, is she going to feel bad? Or, so I'm going to go there. Okay, it's inevitable. And you just want to see that you're doing that. You don't want to make it bad or good. You just want to say, oh, I'm starting to go there about what's being presented. That can help you, just see it. Now I can do that. I could do a session with somebody and 15 times go there, but then come back. Okay. It's just the most important, 90% of it is that you see that you're going there. Okay. So that's 90% of working with the client. Now, when a client is sharing something that is very intense or very tragic or whatever, if you could picture it, I'm going to use a metaphor. If somebody is struggling in the ocean and they're getting pulled in by an undertow, would it make sense for you to jump in to try and save them? No, you want to throw out a life preserver. Or if you jump out with that, say you do end up jumping in, you don't have the life preserver, you want to go with them and go with the riptide. Don't fight it. Okay. Don't make meaning. So it's all about you navigating that for yourself, and then just allowing them to share what they need to share. Okay. Now, when people go down and they feel worse, sometimes people, they share it and they've never, ever shared it ever. It's a big deal that they're feeling safe to do it with you. Okay. But then if they continue in it, like it's a nonstop thing, that's when you want to say, okay, help me understand. I'm noticing that we keep going over the same thing. Help me understand. What happened here mean for you today? So I try to bring the past into, yes, that happened. Yes, that was terrible. Now, how is that impacting you now? So that helps them get reflective about, who knows what the deal is about that. Okay. Or sometimes they feel like they have to keep doing that to keep safe, to prevent it happening again or whatever. So I always try to help them. First, you want to hear them out, and because it's rare that anybody gets that. And then once you hear them out, you want to be curious about, all right, given that, how is that impacting you today? And then in the midst of that, have compassion for yourself that, hey, because I'm not here to fix people, because see, they have what they need inside of them to heal, to get over. So I'm there to connect to that part of them, but I'm human. And there may be times when I go down with them, but I need to kind of catch that, like, oh, okay. Or I'm in a convincing mode. I'm trying to give them advice or trying to shore them up or help them feel better. I have to see that too. And when I do a training of trainer program, I spend a lot of time on, where do I go when I'm listening to another person? And it's not being a better listener. It's just recognizing how much thinking do I go into while I'm with another person? And it's inevitable we're going to go into something. We relate to it, or we go into our own experience, or we go into our clinical mind, or whatever you want to call that. And so that's just, you get a feel for that for yourself. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah. I spend, that's a whole course right there.
All right, coaches. I think that'll do it for today.
Oh, is the time over? I didn't even notice. Oh, good. I have 14% left on my battery, so it's just as well.
I'm like you, Catherine. I never want it to end.
Yeah. My battery's wearing out.
Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed Club Fearless today. I know there's a few new people that are in the room. And then, of course, there's all you old guys that come every week. But if you want to hear more or find out more about Club Fearless, you can go to the webpage. Oh, that's not it. That's everyone's email that I just put on the list. You will get the recording. So I'll send that out a little bit later today to anyone that put their email in the chat box. But Club Fearless, that's the link for the page. You can go check it out. We have classes every week. Catherine, myself, and Jasmine will be here every week. And just want to appreciate everyone for your attendance and your presence and your questions today. We all get to, it's pretty cool. We all get to learn from each other's questions and answers and insights. is a very cool part of why I wanted to do this. It's something I've wanted to do for quite a while. So I'm very proud of what we've created here. Next class for all you who are in Club Fearless at 6 p.m. the 24th. We're going to be do some coaching, and we're going to be talking about developing your coaching skills. And actually, we're going to be talking about listening. So it'll be a really good class. Also, if you need another experience of Club Fearless, we're going to have one on March 7th at 10 a.m. If you don't get the newsletter, put your email in the chat. I'll add you to the newsletter because I'll be sending out the link for that experience class in the newsletter. March 7th at 10 a.m. That'll be a 90-minute class. And the topic of that class will be how to astonish prospective clients so that they hire you and you start getting paid for coaching, which is always a nice thing. All right, coaches, with that, think big, have fun.
Bye, you guys.
Take yourselves off mute. Say goodbye to Catherine.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kathy.
Kathy.
Take care.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care. All
Bye,
right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming today.
Bye.